Welcome to Your Infinite Health. Are you getting older?
Are you feeling it?
How would you like to do that in reverse?
We're your host,
Dr. Tripp
and Lene.
We've run an integrative medicine practice for 13 years.
Together, we have 60 years of combined experience helping clients.
We've helped tens of thousands achieve success in health and live longer, happier lives.
In this show, we'll cover peer-reviewed and evidence-based integrative approaches to creating the health you've always wanted.
We also share professional experience we see in the field every day.
So if you're ready to feel, look, and live your best life, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Your Infinite Health podcast.
What's up, Trip?
Hey, Lene.
It's Saturday.
Oh.
I'm getting ready to bounce out on you boys.
Okay, leave the men at home.
Leaving the men at home to go do a mommy-daughter thing in St. Pete, Florida. I'm pretty excited about that. So as soon as we get done working...
The birthday week continues.
The birthday week continues, right? Listener, my birthday was on June 26th. It was lovely. But I can't wait to go see Laura and spend some time with her. But before I do that, before I abandon you boys, don't trash my house and make sure it's clean when I come back, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Immaculately clean. And I don't care how that happens, just make it happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a joke. Let's see if I can get this one right. What is the difference between the black-eyed peas and chickpeas?
Black-eyed peas and chickpeas. Well, they're two different types of peas. I'm not sure.
Okay, so the black-eyed peas, which are a band, in case you didn't know that, they can rock on, sing a song, but chickpeas can only hummus one.
Great. Oh, that was okay.
I got it. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to know that the Black Eyed Peas was a band in order to like really get that. Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, listener, if you didn't get that, look it up. Okay. So we have a guest. She was so nice to agree to meet with us on her Saturday, on her weekend day. So really appreciate that. And listener, you're going to learn some things that I never knew. So maybe you never knew, maybe you did know. I don't know. Anyway, it's really interesting. Her name is Julia Blackwell. She is how do you say that? Fascia or fascia?
Fascia.
Fascia. She is a fascia release practitioner, educator, and creator of the Fascia Remedy. Julia was born with severe nerve damage to her right shoulder and grew up going through the broken Western medicine system. And after 23 years of being told her condition would never improve and feeling no lasting relief from any treatments, she was introduced to a unique type of fascia release bodywork in 2010. And in just 3 months of this fascia-specific work, she saw more improvement in the feel and function of her arm than she had in 16 years of traditional treatments. This experience catapulted Julia into learning everything she could about fascia, the critical role it plays in our movement and overall health, and how to restore it. After learning multiple modalities and working with clients for 12 years, she formulated her own approach for bodywork and foam rolling work called the Fascia Remedy. Using this methodology, she's been able to solve her own bouts of low back, knee, and neck pain in a matter of days, as well as help others quickly alleviate pain, restore movement, and perform at their best. Julia has captivated a community of thousands with her unique bodywork, her fresh take on foam rolling, and her approach to discovering the root source of their pain. Her combination of fascia release, postural alignment, and mindset magic has earned her the nickname, quote, the pain relief wizard, from her community of both professional athletes and everyday movers. As a Denver local, Julia spends her time adventuring, playing with her 2 dogs, and she even just completed climbing all of Colorado's tallest peaks. Welcome, Julia. All right, Julia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Cool. So I want to see if you can share with the listener how, because you've got a really interesting story about how you are doing what you're doing today with like fascia. Like, I don't think that's on too many people's radar. So I'm just curious how you got to be there.
Sure. Yes, my journey to finding physical freedom in my body has literally been lifelong. I was almost a 10-pound baby. And in the process of being born, I got stuck. So, in an effort to pull me out, the doctor ended up stretching and tearing most of the nerves in my right shoulder. Fun times.
They
So,
didn't want to do a C-section?
it was a very last minute situation. And
Wow.
normally they can I know this sounds really intense, but they can break the shoulder blade, or there's another way to get the baby out, but that also heals, bones heal, right? So this was sort of a failed attempt at, I think, one of those such procedures. And instead, they ended up tearing a lot of nerves. So I did have a nerve regraft surgery when I was very young, about 4 months, which did help bring my arm somewhat back online, if you will. So it was able to move more, but I was still left with incessant tightness, limited mobility, and limited strength in that arm. So growing up, I went through what I now call the standard Western medicine system runaround. So
Right.
to many doctors' appointments and checkups. I went to occupational therapy. I went to some physical therapy, really, most modalities you could think of, at least what was available in Ohio in the 90s. But really, nothing made a significant or lasting impact for me. And truthfully, most of the practitioners I talked to straight up told me that there was nothing else they could do for me, that this condition was never going to improve. In fact, mostly it was gonna get worse, so I should
Wow.
prepare myself for that.
That's terrible.
Yeah, just lighthearted things you tell a kid growing up.
Wow, and I can't imagine, like, the impact on your parents as well.
And your
Eh,
mindset, completely you're on your mindset. Just, yeah.
and, after working with so many people for the last decade now doing what I do, I lost count of the times I've heard something so similar from other clients as they heard from a doctor or some type of practitioner that, "Hey, you're never going to blank again," or this condition is now something you're going to have forever and you simply have to manage it. So I think my story is not
Wow.
that uncommon. Yeah. as
Yeah,
sad as
well,
it is.
just real quick, if you're a physician or a practitioner and you're listening to this episode, stop talking like that. That crap's so dangerous. The impact is ridiculous.
That
Yeah.
mind body connection is so powerful. And if your mind believes that there's no future for or room for improvement in any way, then your body is going to end up manifesting that thing that you believe. So, yes, that's so important to think about what you're truly sharing with someone or what limitations you're giving their mind
Right.
when you talk to them.
I had
But
that I had that same, just briefly, I had that same outcome as a medical oncologist for years where, it may be uninformed, it may be bright physicians, but uninformed, would say, oh, you've got cancer, you're going to die. And that's, that colors from that moment on, colors the decision making and everything and outcomes. So yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, sorry.
no, no, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. But yeah, so even though I had that mindset, I still did do whatever I could find to help. So I bought all kinds of tools and gadgets that ended up honestly in my closet in this graveyard of various things. I laid on what must have been 100 tables for treatment by experts and such. But it wasn't until 2010 I moved out to Boulder, Colorado. And by some amazing, fateful chance, I met this lady who did a very unique and specific type of fascia release work. And I was very unfamiliar with fascia, which is kind of hilarious because I'm an exercise physiology major. I was in college. And It's a very quickly covered topic. They mostly talk about fascia as connective tissue. Hey, this is what attaches your ligaments to bones. And then they move on. So I knew so little about it and had no expectations for what was going to happen with this work. But it absolutely blew my mind and changed my life. Within 3 months of doing this type of fascia release work, I saw more improvement in the look, the feel, and the function of my right arm than I had in literally a lifetime's worth of standard treatments and modalities. It was it was incredible. So, of course, while my journey is still ongoing and I do need to consistently continue to put work into working on my arm, I was like, wow, if this can make such a huge dent in my progress for something that was supposed to be permanent and absolutely unchangeable, I was so excited to see what it could do for all of the other people that I knew in my life that had various aches and pains, various nerve things, tendonitis things. And yeah, it totally changed the trajectory of my career. I became obsessed with fashion and learning how to work with it and release it and change it. And yeah, here we are. I think it's been 10 or 11 years working with clients and helping all kinds of people resolve pain and limitations.
That's awesome. So, real quick for the non-medical listener, can you do better than what your school told you about fascia?
That's funny. Yes. So, fascia is the biological fabric that holds us together. It's what organizes all of the water and material in our body. And my favorite analogy is to describe it like plastic wrap. So, you can think of that thin saran wrap that we all know about wrapping around every single muscle fiber, every muscle group, every ligament, tendon, bone, nerve, organ. It's all wrapped like this three-dimensional plastic wrap suit that we wear on the inside. So if it were to magically disappear out of your body, you would go tumbling to the ground in a pile of bones and goo. That is how imperative it is for shape and structure. Now, on the flip side, if everything else except for fascia were to magically disappear out of your body, you would still largely look like you. It's such a fascinating way that we are held together, but we live in a really cool time where they're also doing so much more research on fascia now. We're discovering all of these other incredible roles that it's playing in the body. So it's how it's delivering nutrients and hydration to all of our tissue. It's what allows detoxing to happen effectively. It's what helps absorb shock. It's what allows our muscles and joints to glide. It's impacted by stress and trauma. There's so many communicative roles it plays as well. It's like a second nervous system. In fact, I'll probably argue that it's more like your first nervous system, but there's more and more roles coming out all of the time. So it plays so many different roles in our body and it's fascinating stuff.
Cool. So then, like, how does that work? How does that work? What are you doing to your arm specifically? Is it a technique? Is it a tool? Like, how does that look and how does that work?
So, the way that I've found most effectively to work with fascia is a combination of compression, cross fibering, and active movement. So, compression is just what it sounds like, is finding these areas of restriction and density, or even dehydration, if you will, in the body, and compressing it with some type of tool. Or, in my practice, I actually step on people.
Oh, wow.
So my clients lovingly refer to it as being stepped on, but it's really, I'm using my foot to get a larger area of compression and actually spread out that compression. So sometimes it's not as intense as, say, digging a thumb or an elbow into a spot because we're broadening the pressure that we're adding. But sometimes it is, healthy fascia doesn't hurt. So when we find a really good area of compression, there is often a lot of sensation to it.
Mm.
But I also teach people how to use foam rollers and different types of massage balls and tools that can be used for that compression as well. But then once that area is compressed, I will talk someone through an active type of movement. So for example, if we're compressing an area up in the pec near the shoulder, if you rotate from your shoulder and lift your arm up and down over your head, that's going to create all kinds of cross fibering in that tissue and all of the layers of fascia there. And it's engaging that nervous system slash communicative part of the fascial system that lets you know, oh, hey, actually, this range of motion is available to me. I'm rewriting and interrupting this poor movement pattern right now in the moment through my own body moving. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of traditional treatments, let's call them, is that they're very passive. We lay there and we have someone either put something on us, or that person is attempting to change your body for you. And while that can work, it takes a long time because we're taking out that nervous system component of, hey, we need to actively move
Yes.
ourselves to interrupt this pattern. It's just like anything in life, right? Personal development. You could read and read about personal development, but if you're not going to take any action yourself or implement this thing yourself, it's going to take forever for this
Right.
new pattern to work, right? So that's the main difference, I would say, of how I'm specifically working with the tissue is I'm providing the compression as a practitioner, or you're providing the compression yourself when you do it on your own. But either way, you as the person are actively moving through a range of motion. And that's what makes a lot of the change so quick and so lasting.
Very cool. So somebody would need to, how many times a week or a day, and for how long? I think you were saying it's an ongoing thing.
Well, it depends on what you have going on. Usually the less time you've been experiencing a pain or limitation, the faster it goes away, which I'm such a huge advocate for, like, hey, work on this yourself, because the sooner you work on it instead of waiting until, the next time you can get into the doctor or the next time you can get into your massage therapist, so many muscle compensations and other things are happening. So when you can work on something really quickly, things go away very fast. I've had my own bouts of, oh geez, neck pain, low back pain, knee pain, and I immediately will work on it as soon as it starts hurting. And usually it's gone within a day or two because of how quick
Mhm.
I'm going after it. If you've been experiencing something for 30 years, it's going to take a little bit more time and consistency, but it's absolutely possible to still rehydrate and repattern your tissue. So it depends. If you're first starting out, you might want to do some small releases every day or 4 to 5 times a week just to keep interrupting the pattern with that consistency. But then for maintenance, maybe it's once or twice a week. So that's kind of a hard question to answer because it's really dependent on the person and what all they have going on for sure.
Can somebody mess up the technique and cause more damage?
Good question. So there is a mentality among certain types of people that is a very no pain, no gain type of mentality. And while there is a lot of intensity that can come with working on your fascia, this certainly is not about beating your body into submission. I cannot express that enough. Where at some point, if the intensity is higher than, say, a 6 or 7 out of 10, and you're really putting just a ton of weight into that compression, you might have the opposite effect because the nervous system is going to feel attacked. It's going to start upregulating your nervous system. And if your nervous system is in that sympathetic state, it's going to resist a lot of the change that you're trying to make. So I certainly would say, this isn't about just going in really hard to an area as much as you can or as hard as you can. And then the other side of that, which is something I've really enjoyed teaching people, in both my practice and in my online courses over the years, is where you're feeling pain is rarely ever the problem. And so there's also this mentality of oh, my low back hurts. I'm going to dig into my low back. I'm going to get massages on my low back. I'm going to foam roll on my low back. But the reality is, our fascial system is like a series of pulleys that in an ideal world are all perfectly balanced front to back and left to right. But as things start to get tight and those pulley systems start to get out of whack, we end up feeling pain somewhere that has nothing to do with what I call the root cause.
Mhm.
So we also have to be a little strategic, not only how we're releasing fascia, but where. So for low back, for example, the quads and even the adductors are the top two areas I find that as soon as you release those areas,
What?
apparently Zoom liked that one. The balloon.
Listener balloons just flew up on the screen. We're celebrating something, don't know what.
Yes. Um, yeah, that's fun. So, but the quads and the adductors, as soon as those areas of
Oh,
fascia,
adductors. I don't know what that is.
oh, your inner thighs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know. I meant science brain. Uh, that usually takes low back pain almost entirely away. And so it's finding the places of where you need to release as well.
I mean, how does somebody who has, a beginner who isn't having, you know, just coming into this and they have low back pain, how would they know to go to the inner thigh? Like, how would the average person know that?
I mean, well, unfortunately, they probably don't, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing this and teaching people as much as possible, because there are some very predictable patterns in the body that once you see them or feel them, you're like, oh, that's so simple. And actually, of course, that makes sense. But we have to do that discovery for ourselves. And even if you don't know all of these pain patterns, as I call them, our bodies are so smart and they give us such incredibly accurate information. You could start playing around with, okay, well, I have shoulder pain. What happens if I release my bicep? What happens if I release my lat, which isn't necessarily near the spot of pain, perhaps, but see what your body feels like. If your body feels better after releasing a certain area, that's great information. You know what? No one knows your body as well as you do. You're the one in it and has to live in it and experience whatever sensations you're feeling. So trust your body. You don't have to know all of the answers, but you can start experimenting with, hey, what's the texture of my tissue? Where am I noticing, I have a lot of tension. Maybe it's on the opposite side of your body. All of these things are possible. And if you explore what your body feels like after releasing certain areas, you can find the answer for yourself.
Cool.
It's this same concept when I got trained to do prolotherapy, this concept of tensegrity, this whole body connection, connectability, and the fascia is the modality that allows us to have that and to maintain our upright posture or the sense of where our body is and being able to manipulate that and in the ways I'm sure that you've trained to do is just an incredible aid I know could be an incredible aid to many people.
Yeah, thank you. That tensegrity is such a great something that, if someone's really interested in this, that they can look up. It's this way that, again, we are balanced through tension in the body and everything is connected. I feel the word holistic is very overused and almost doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
Right.
But that is, it's so important to look at the body as a whole or see what's happening throughout the body as a whole, because our fascial system is one uninterrupted, interconnected system from our head to our feet. And while there are certain lines that are more interconnected than others and create a lot of those tension pulleys and balance, we have to look and see what's happening everywhere. Because, yeah, if your whole body is pulled to the left side, you likely will feel pain on the right, and you'll work and work and work on your right side without understanding, oh, this might actually be coming from somewhere else. But sometimes you could even see it in the mirror. Do you have a shoulder that's lifted up higher than the other? Or does it look like your hips are rotated? Some of those things can give you even just a quick insight. You don't have to know all the answers, but you can be like, oh, my hips are rotated. Maybe that's why I have plantar fasciitis. Or knee pain. Like there's always a reason. It just might not be where you've been working, which I hope is very encouraging for people because that's what happened to me is, oh, I have this nerve thing. There's nothing I can do about it. It's in my shoulder, so this must be the problem. But it was throughout my entire right arm, throughout the posterior side of my right side as well. And so I really had to expand that scope and work on more things to make that progress.
Yeah. So, other than your own story, what's like your favorite case study?
Oh my gosh. That is a difficult question. I feel very blessed. I've seen some really incredible things shift for people over the years. I did have a lady who she was in a car accident and her whole body was twisted and compensating in all kinds of crazy ways. And she had been trying for 20 years with all kinds of different modalities with really no success. And it took a lot of work because of the time frame. She'd been experiencing this pain and this muscle compensation patterns. Yeah, patterns plural. But we unwound every part of her body and she's back to hiking and cross country skiing and doing these things that she was like, I really didn't know that I was ever going to be able to do these without pain and feel good and feel strong and feel like muscles are firing better. And I'm not trying to fix a pattern because that's another part of it. Think about if you tell anyone, hey, I'm working on my posture, the first thing that they're going to do is be like, oh, I should stand up straighter, right? They throw their shoulder blades back and they try to lift themselves from those posterior muscles. But the reality is posture shouldn't take any effort. We shouldn't have to hold our body in a certain position in order to stay pain-free or keep ourselves in a position. Ideally, that's happening naturally. Those muscles should be working pretty
Man,
simple.
I wish my aunts knew that when I was a little girl, because that was like, stand up straight.
Oh my goodness. I hear that a lot. I have especially women too. They were often told, "Hey, suck it in. Like pull in your stomach really tight. Make sure that your posture is just right." And all of this contracting of muscles and pulling themselves into a position that their body wasn't ready for essentially caused problems down the line. So you do want to find this area of, hey, it doesn't actually take any effort to do the activity I want or stand the way I want because enough things are hydrated and mobile and they're in that happy state. But I've had man, more people than I can count that just came in and they'd tried just about anything you could think of. And the problem was they were just in the wrong spot. They needed that active movement component and they needed to actually release tissue in the right area. So I've seen a lot of car accidents, people post surgery, and surprise, surprise, surgery didn't fully take away their pain.
Right.
Oh, how interesting, because your carpal tunnel is not a wrist problem, it's a shoulder problem. Oh, your plantar fasciitis is not a foot problem, it's a posterior fascial chain problem. There's all of these things that, yeah, and it's no one's fault. I mean, I've had a bunch of surgery too for my arm, but at some point we've been trained to continue to outsource trust to someone else when it comes to our body. And I really want people to understand that your body actually has most of the answers. And unless it's a really extreme scenario where sometimes surgery is necessary, but 90% of the time it's not. And so being able to go in and discover what's really happening within your tissue and what's preventing things from working optimally, you hold a lot of that power and you don't need as many people as you think you do.
But I think it also brings up the thing, and I'm thinking from a little bit different perspective than you are, because I do a lot of regenerative musculoskeletal work with the
Yeah.
prototherapy and with stem cell stuff and exosomes and what I and what I see there, and as you bring this concept back into my field of vision, it's so important to integrate these multiple modalities, holistic modalities that,
You're doing air quotes there. The
yeah,
listener can't see that.
and so air quotes holistic, but yeah, so I think it's really important to integrate those things, and the value of doing stuff like you do with the same time at the same time as doing simple injections like I do for motor vehicle accidents and many of these physical traumas that result in ligament laxity and those things. I think the value is just outstanding and can prevent surgery altogether, quite
You
frankly.
were going to go into a discussion about the medical mastermind.
Oh, why?
Well, because she
Well,
was talking
and
about people
also,
abdicating their power, and when you become the CEO of your health, then you surround
exactly.
yourself with partners that understand that you are the CEO and they're there to support what your goals are.
And try and get you to that goal, that endpoint that you desire. Yeah, absolutely. So bringing the right people in, having being the CEO and bringing the right people into view to participate in the resolution of the challenges is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool that you work with some stem cells too. That's such a fascinating area right now that holds so much incredible potential. I'm excited to see how it continues to evolve.
It's fantastic. I've been doing it for about 10 years now. So
Wow. Oh
yeah,
my
so
gosh, that's so cool.
yeah, and the evolution from dextrose to PRP to Morton's jelly and exosomes and that it's been a great ride so far.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're starting to move on from cortisone. What a
Oh,
terrible wrong turn we made with that one.
it relieves the pain, but does and then aggravates everything else.
Yeah, and that's also to the point we've been talking about, if someone has had a cortisone shot and they're like, "Man, this didn't solve my problem," or "Hey, it felt really good for 2 months or 6 months or even a year and then it came back." That's the reality is, well, you probably got a cortisone shot near the point where it was hurting and that didn't fix whatever was out of balance within the rest of the body. So while you didn't feel it, you continued to do the same pattern over and over again, which likely it's going to bring the pain back eventually. So I'm glad that, yeah, we're starting to get more options when it comes to these things. And yeah, that's cool to see the
And
way everything's evolving.
the detriment that it causes to ligament, to soft tissue, to cartilage, to bone, the deterioration that
Yeah, Trip
steroids
wants to sue
basically
every doctor that's giving steroid shots for
it should be,
medical malpractice.
yeah, contraindicated in every single setting that's being used in musculoskeletal medicine now.
Yeah, well, I've talked to, again, man, so many people before where their doctor didn't warn them that, yeah, necrosis or like the death of bone
Exactly.
tissue, fascia tissue, muscle tissue, that's a possible and very likely side effect, especially if you have, um, you know, 3, 4, 5, 10 shots in one specific area. It really becomes a huge, uh, kind of scary situation because that tissue is being killed over time. And unfortunately, once that tissue is dead, it's pretty much impossible to bring it back. So, unfortunately, a lot of people, they never were warned that
Right.
those 10 shots in the same spot in their neck or in their Achilles for their plantar fasciitis, that those things had a real negative impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do people work with you? You said you had virtual and on-site?
Yeah, so I have a couple of virtual options because I know not everyone is local to the Denver area. I have a essentially do it yourself foam rolling program called Roller Remedy, where it's a vast video library that you can teach yourself how to release any part of the body from head to toe. And there are specific programs in there that help guide you with those pain patterns when it comes to a specific pain. So there's programs for low back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, all of the main things like sciatic, knee pain, plantar fasciitis, carpal tunnel, all those main things that tend to plague us. There's some structure and some guidance on what areas you likely want to release first and how to go about finding the right pattern that relieves pain. But even beyond pain, fascia release can help with mobility. It can help with just your overall well-being as far as like it improves hydration in your body. It might help with brain fog and fatigue and all of these things from having stagnant fluid and stuck tissue all over your body.
Well,
It can I know, I was like, it's gross, but it's the reality. That stuff gets trapped. If you're familiar with muscle knots, those are actually fascia knots. And
huh.
what's trapped in there is mostly stagnant fluid and things that are not very good. Our body needs to release that and carry it out of our system. But yeah, it can help with your workouts. It can help with your mobility. So I highly recommend, if anyone is interested in reading more about that, they can go to movementbyjulia.com. I have a free video series called Unlock Your Hips there that you can just try out this type of foam rolling and feel the difference for yourself, because it is likely different than any way you've used a foam roller before. And I'll give you a bit of insight on what that program looks like. I do take one-on-one clients as well virtually if you need more help with finding a specific pattern. But again, a lot of the time you'd be surprised on what you can discover for yourself and do on your own. And I'm really excited to see how many people have gotten great results from just doing it on their own.
Very cool. Well, what is one thing you'd like the listener to know?
Wow. One thing, huh? Well, I would say don't give up hope for anything that you've got going on. It doesn't matter if it's a nerve thing, a joint thing, a vertebrae thing, a muscle thing. There is a reason that this thing you're experiencing is happening. And there's absolutely a way to find relief. Find a way to manage it, if not fully eliminate it. So don't give up hope. It's likely that again, you might just be working in the wrong area.
Cool. And one more time, where can they find more about you again?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find me at Movement by Julia there. And then where you can see all the things I'm doing and all the services I have, you can go to movementbyjulia.com.
Awesome. Well, Julia, thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Awesome.
It
Awesome
was
stuff.
very helpful for me. Listener, I hope it was helpful for you as well. Um, Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was great.
Right.
All right, listener, hope you found this educational, informational, somewhat entertaining. And until next time.
Thanks for subscribing to Your Infinite Health. I'm Dr. Tripp.
And I'm Lene. Until next time, feel it, look it, and live it.